Well, guys, this is it. This is the movie I have been waiting all year to see. And even before its title was officially announced, this was the movie that I've been waiting for all year. And now you guys are finally going to hear my thoughts on Licorice Pizza, the newest film by Paul Thomas Anderson starring Alana Haim and Cooper Anderson. Just kidding, it's actually Spider-Man No Way Home. Of course it's Spider-Man No Way Home. You guys read the title of the video. You know I'm going to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, full disclosure, really quick. Because Spider-Man No Way Home is such a big movie, and obviously, of course, a lot of people did see it as it had the third highest grossing opening weekend of all time behind Infinity War and Endgame. Wow, that is a lot of money. Obviously, of course, a lot of people have seen this movie. But because I want to give some leeway, I will be posting 2 videos in regards to No Way Home. The first, this video, is a spoiler-free discussion of Spider-Man No Way Home. Then I will upload a second video that will discuss my more spoilery thoughts on the movie, such as certain character appearances, what this could potentially mean for the future of Spider-Man going forward, and all that other stuff. And remember how I said the fact that in my update video that I would be doing a big video about talking about all the stuff I saw in October and November? Well, I decided the fact that after this video, after I do the 2 videos talking about Spider-Man and after I see The Matrix Resurrections, then I'll end up making that video talking about everything that I had seen from the latter part of that year. In fact, I actually think the fact that aside from a couple of instances, I think the way I'll do my reviews now is that I'll record a massive long video talking about everything I had seen in those first 3 months, like 3 months of a year, and then I'll include time codes in the bottom of the video for which section you want to hear my thoughts on. Like, for example, by the time we get to April, I'll make a video talking about all the movies I had seen from January to March. Some exceptions, I will probably make a solo video talking about The Batman with Robert Pattinson, but you get the idea. But anyways, so, it is time to discuss Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, No Way Home is the latest film and the third in the Spider-Man MCU trilogy. It is directed by John Watts from a screenplay by Chris McKenna and Erik Sommers, and once again features Tom Holland reprising the role of Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. Now, this movie follows on directly after the events of the mid-credits scene of Spider-Man Far From Home, in which, spoilers if you haven't seen that movie, but then again it's been 2 years, so yeah. Mysterio not only frames Peter for his murder, but he also ends up leaking to the entire world Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And because of that, everything in Peter's world is just thrown into chaos because of that. And realizing the fact that this is hurting a lot of people that he loves, Peter wants to find a way to fix this. So, he decides to go to Doctor Strange for help, and he asks him to cast a spell that will make everybody forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. However, when the spell ends up going wrong, let's just say that particular universe ends up getting some visitors. Now, I really enjoy the MCU Spider-Man films. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. First 2 more so than the third one. But I am willing to acknowledge that the third movie does have its charms and it does have its pros. It does have some really good things about it. Same thing goes with the Amazing Spider-Man films with Andrew Garfield. Don't get me wrong, I'm not really the biggest fan of those movies, but there are many things about it that I do like. Andrew Garfield is a great Spider-Man. I loved his relationship with Gwen Stacy. The action sequences were pretty neat. And that's really all that I can really mention right now. But yeah, I really do like the MCU Spider-Man movies, and I like the fact that what makes them different from the other Spider-Man films is we are slowly seeing the progression of Peter Parker becoming the true Spider-Man from the comics. Like, obviously, of course, Homecoming skips the origin story because we all know it, but what I think is really cool is, what a really unique way to view these movies is, these movies are the origin story as we're seeing Peter come into his own as Spider-Man, which I think is a really cool idea, but anyways. And I really do like the fact that what makes them different from the other Spider-Man films is that it's more grounded, John Hughesian-esque tone to, particularly with Homecoming and Far From Home. But yeah, this third movie, oh man, Just to give you an idea about how good this movie is, I rarely cry at anything. Last time I remember I cried at a movie was when I saw A Star Is Born from 2018 with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. Might have cried during Endgame, but I don't remember. But yeah, so watch me as I say with 100% seriousness in my face that Spider-Man No Way Home made me cry. That right there shows you the quality of this movie. To me, alongside Into the Spider-Verse, I think it's probably the best Spider-Man film ever made. Live action, well, I will admit, obviously, of course, the Raimi films, as previously mentioned, do have their qualities to them. But I'm just saying, personally, it's my favorite because it just feels like a celebration of everything that is Spider-Man. And for the people who are new to this channel, Spider-Man is my all-time favorite superhero. Most of the other Marvel comics underneath these stack of Invincible Compendiums, most Marvel trades that I own, if not all of them, are Spider-Man ones. So, yeah, that goes to show about, how much, I love the character and how much I love Spider-Man. And this movie just felt like this massive celebration of Spider-Man. Couple of pros that I really enjoyed. Really liked how it dealt with the fallout of his identity being revealed at the end of Far From Home. And how it's not just everybody just hates him. There are people that still love him, and there are people that still hate him. It very much feels like one of those situations, and it very much feels like if a celebrity ended up having some allegations revealed about them, there would be some people that would be championing for that celebrity, and others against him. And that is very much the same with what's going on with Peter at the beginning of No Way Home. And speaking of Peter, wow, Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Wow. This might be his best performance of his entire career. Not just Spider-Man, his career. Tom Holland has to do so much in this movie. And the fact that he's able to do it so well is just absolutely amazing. Plus, the villains. Obviously, of course, I'm not going to be spoiling anything that hasn't been already showcased in the trailers. But it is so cool the fact that they got so many of these classic Spider-Man villains, and they got the exact same actors to play them. Willem Dafoe comes back as the Green Goblin. Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus. Thomas Hayden Church as Sandman. Riz Ifrans as the Lizard. And Jamie Foxx as Electro. And for the most part, they're all really, really good. Alfred Molina, of course, is great as Doc Ock, as always. Jamie Foxx is given a lot of funny lines, and it shows that they really redeemed the character of Electro from what we saw in Amazing Spider-Man 2. And man, Willem Dafoe is the Green Goblin. I actually think the fact that he's more scary and intimidating than he was in the original Spider-Man film, and he was pretty intimidating there. He was great there, but I think he's even better here. And one thing that I do feel like, one little criticism that I do get is, it feels like Sandman and Lizard got nothing. You get maybe one or two lines discussing about who they were, about what they were doing, and that's really about it. You get almost nothing with those guys. It just seems like the main focus seems to be mainly on Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Electro. Another great thing that I love about it is they actually have motives, and they actually have meanings for why they do what they do. As Alfred Molina put it, if this was in a different way, they would just be there to get the plot going. But the fact that they're actually still those fully developed, fleshed out characters that we see from those other movies is really fantastic. Plus, they give MJ and Ned and Aunt May so much to do in this movie. In those other movies, it just feels like the fact that, they're the supporting characters. They're there to be Peter's support. Here, they're actually given huge weight and agency in the story. And I'm like, yes, this is really great. I really love this stuff. Not only that, but the action in this movie is fantastic. There is one scene in which you see Peter fighting hand-to-hand with the Goblin, and it was amazing. The fight choreography was insane. And not only that, but the score by Michael Giacchino is fantastic. This probably is his best score out of all of the Spider-Man movies he's done. Because he's composed the score to both Homecoming and Far From Home, and he's done this. This is probably the best that he's done out of all of those movies. And I love the fact that in addition to all the original stuff that he's done, he also was able to bring over some music cues from the Sam Raimi and the Andrew Garfield, from the Sam Raimi and Mark Webb films. Like, for example, they bring in some, like, I'm pretty sure they credited... I remember specifically they credited the Doc Ock theme from Danny Elfman and the Electro theme from the Magnificent Six, which was a one-time group that formed during the Amazing Spider-Man 2 soundtrack, which consisted of Junkie XL, Hans Zimmer, Pharrell Williams, and a couple of other people. And yeah, I thought that was absolutely great. Now we sort of get into my critiques with the movie. One has to kind of be some of the editing. Cause it feels like that for some character interactions that occur, it feels like that not all of the actors were really present for their roles, were there for their lines, when they're interacting with these other people. And you can kind of tell, and once you notice it, it's kind of hard to, but I really didn't mind because I was just so engrossed in the story, but once you really notice it, it's kind of hard not to. But then again, this does make sense because, you know, they did make this movie in the middle of a pandemic, so there is that. And another thing that I do think another thing that I do also want to mention is, okay, so the editing that could, and not only that, but some of the character interactions might go on for a bit longer than I would have initially wanted. Like, it's nice to have them, but when you really get down in the grand scheme of things, does it really need to have this conversation, like, go on as long as it does? Like, you know? Like, it's great to see, like, these people interacting with each other, but, you know, it doesn't really need to go on as long as it needs to. Oh, but circling back around, I want to mention quickly the pros. The visuals are absolutely fantastic. Like, a great highlight of this is the sequence in which you see Peter and Strange fighting in the mirror dimension. And it was really fantastic stuff, and I'm like, if this is what they're doing with Strange in this Spider-Man movie, what the heck is Sam Raimi gonna do with him in Multiverse of Madness? Because that's the next one after this. And man, not only that, but there was, but circling back around to my critiques, there was a mid-credit scene that I will go more into on my spoiler video, in which it made me feel like you set that up in another movie, and it just felt like a giant tease just to rip it away again. And I'm like, But yeah, overall, Spider-Man No Way Home, to me, is my movie of the year 2021. It has everything. It has the action. It has the fantastic visuals, great action sequences, state-of-the-art visual effects, really fantastic performances from everybody around. From Tom Holland, to Zendaya, to Jacob Batalon, to Benedict Cumberbatch, to Jon Favreau, Marisa Tomei, everybody involved all did fantastic jobs, and it felt like they were putting in their effort. Not only that, but it's got great humor as well, which makes sense because Spider-Man is known to be a very funny character. Not all the jokes work, obviously, but the ones that work really work. And not only that, but it is dark. Like, this is a lot darker than I ever expected it to be. And I think that makes it great because it makes the stakes and the weight feel all the more impactful. And man, this was a great movie. This is probably my personal favorite MCU movie, to be honest, because it ticked all the right boxes for me. It was so good. And I cannot wait to see what Marvel's got planned for the future for Spider-Man. So overall, I'm going to give No Way Home a 9.5 out of 10. So tune in next time for when I cover Spider-Man No Way Home in the more spoilery review of the movie. So keep your eyes peeled out for that in the oncoming days. I hope you guys are doing well. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit that like button. Also, to make sure to hit the little notification bell to make sure that you don't miss out on a single upload. And that about does it. As always, stay gold.